Well, here we are yet again for a session that I'm actually really looking forward to. Of course, we call this catch up over coffee. I don't think you've got a coffee on you, have you, Ben?
No, I'm drinking a very healthy water.
Healthy water, good on you, mate.
Yeah.
Freshly squeezed cloud juice.
Freshly squeezed cloud juice. That's what it is.
Welcome along, mate. I'm going to be a bit of a galore today, and I'll enjoy my coffee.
Enjoy.
Thank you. But yeah, so this is catch up over coffee. And, as you and I have just briefly discussed, the intention here is to kind of share the journey of successful business owners, and with a particular slant, and we'll get to this a little later in the conversation around, the importance of sales and your experience around sales, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But before we go down there, let me formally introduce you to the rest of the watchers and the listeners. Today, I'm joined by Ben Fewtrell, who is a co-director and co-founder of MaxMyProfit. What does MaxMyProfit do, Ben?
It helps business owners build the business they imagined. So,
okay.
When someone goes into business, they always imagine having something that's going to work relatively well. If you ask people why they start a business, it's usually to work less hours and make more money, but very few achieve that. So we help them achieve that.
Cool. Very cool. So we'll come back to that in due course. What I'm really interested in to kind of kick off with, and I hope you won't mind me saying this, but I'm a little bit voyeuristic with your life. I get to see you doing some really enjoyable things. If you're not flying around in a little plane, or if you're not, on a bike, kind of doing a safari of some kind, if you're not in the troopy, out bush doing some fishing and camping, you seem to strike me as the quintessential Australian. Tell us your story, mate. Tell us not just the business story. Tell us a bit about Ben Fewtrell.
Well, I guess, I got asked once to sum myself up in a couple of words, and the two words that came to mind were creative adventurer. And you've probably summed that up a fair bit in the activity that you see. I mean, Facebook is a wonderful thing, isn't it? Or social media. But I love being outdoors, and I love adventure. I love new things and experiences. In fact, I cherish experiences more than stuff, and so for me, that's always been a guiding principle in my life. And when I got into coaching, many years ago, 20 years ago, I thought to myself, well, I can't be coaching others to build a business that doesn't rely on them being there if I don't have a business like that. And so I've built my business in a way that means that I don't have to be there. Certainly there are times I need to work, but as you would have noticed, I spend a fair bit of time enjoying myself, getting out there and being an adventurer as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And I love that line, experiences over things. Right. And I think if we think about that, and I don't yet want to get into the sales side of the conversation, but if you think about selling today, if there's a greater emphasis by a salesperson around the notion of giving the buyer an experience rather than just the thing we're trying to sell, that would surely have to have a major impact.
Absolutely. I mean, 80% of all decisions are emotional. The logical side certainly comes into it, but I think most people are buying something because they want an emotional outcome, not because they want the actual thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you a born and bred Sydney boy?
I am first generation though. My parents are over here from England.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was first generation born here out of my family.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you got family today, kids and all that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I started young. I'm 47. I've got a 23-year-old son and a 20-year-old daughter, and still living at home as they do these days.
Yeah,
when we're in Sydney there, it's too hard for them to go and do their own thing these days. For us, it was a lot easier, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. And I understand, and I love that attitude of if I haven't done it myself, what right do I have to stand in front of somebody else, and preach to them? And in fact, I had a similar experience. Actually, it was my very first ever customer. So it was in the year 2000, I'd just kicked off a business, which at the time we called Direct to Human Resources. And we were working with clients around helping them create high performance cultures. And a guy by the name of Dominic Leone, do you happen to know Dominic by any chance? No. Okay. So Dominic Leone had set up a business called Complete Office Supplies. And as you fast forward to today, it is, I believe, the largest and most profitable privately owned office supplies business in Australia. And it's recently just acquired an American business here in Australia. And, you know, I got to work with Dominic and his crew over a 2 or 3 year period. And I remember sitting down with him one day and I said to him, so, how did you get into this? And he said, well, my intention actually is to be a coach to business owners, right? And I want to kind of be able to share with them what they really need to do versus some of the BS that they read, particularly in some of the American books about what it takes to be successful in business. And so, you know, what I've decided is I need to make sure that I've got a successful business where I'm speaking from experience. And that turned out to be the case. And my understanding is you've had a similar journey because you had was it a transport or a trucking business or a freight business?
Yes. So I'm actually not very well educated. I'm a panel beater by trade. I left school in year 10 and Dad said, if you're going to leave school early, you've got to go and get a trade. I mean, it was a done thing back then. And I did that for a few years, but quickly worked out I didn't actually enjoy. I loved cars. I still love cars to this day. Anything with wheels and a motor, and I love it.
Yeah.
If it's got wings, it's an added bonus. But I soon worked out it wasn't for me. And so I ended up becoming a courier driver. And funnily enough, I was training to become a commercial pilot at that time. And courier driving was just something to pay the bills because you need quite a bit of cash flow to become a pilot. But I worked out a little too late that my eyesight, I'm actually red-green colour deficient or colourblind, as a lot of people would know.
Yeah.
And that precludes you from being an airline pilot. So I had to quickly change my tact, and I got involved, because I was courier driving, I got involved in becoming a radio operator. And then being in operations, working my way up into managing operations in a transport company, and then starting my own transport company. So yes, I built that up and sold that off at 28, and then got into the business of business coaching and training.
Okay. So, and at 28, you'd built a business that, if I remember correctly, had 64 vehicles in the fleet. Is that right?
Yes, 60 odd trucks on the road. Yes.
Holy moly. That's quite an achievement, mate. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah.
And by 28, that is incredible.
Yeah, it always sounds incredible and impressive, but we weren't making any money and we're working a lot of hours. So
there you go.
I always use it as a bit of a story because, you know, a lot of us hang our hats on or put a pin on our chest to say I've achieved something with turnover, but turnover is a vanity matrix, isn't it?
Right.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us about that journey, though. I mean, what was the grind and the hustle like? Because, you know, a lot of the people who are listening to this or watching this are going to be head down, tail up right now, building their dream. And that revenue thing you've just shared is going to make them go, what the?
Yeah. And I mean, I've fallen into that trap a couple of times myself, and I should know better. You know, I teach others not to fall into that trap, but it can be very compelling to build a business based on revenue. When realistically, what you really want to build, if you think about why people go into business, it's to create, better lifestyle through more income and more flexibility in a lot of cases. Yeah. So it's, you really got to be budgeting for profit, not budgeting for sales. And so that's the area that most people make. So when I had the transport company, boy, oh boy, we worked some hours, mate. Let me tell you, I would be nothing for me, James. I'd get up at, 4 a.m. I go across to I had a depot at Hoxton Park. We could be over there at 6 o'clock to welcome the trucks in from Queensland and Victoria. I had another office over at Seven Hills where we did the daily ops from. And I had the disease a lot of business owners do, which is no one can do it as good as me-itis. So I did way too much and ended up working a lot of hours and really didn't know that we weren't making a lot of money until it was too late. So like a lot of business owners, I'd wait until the accountant looked at the numbers, which was quite often a long time after the end of the financial year. Yep. And unfortunately, it was very, very stressful. It was stressful personally, it was stressful in my relationship, it was stressful on my relationships with my other family members that I was in business with. So it was quite a difficult thing. And I think a lot of people on the outside would have gone, wow, look, these guys are so successful, all these trucks on the road, they've got some pretty key accounts. But deep down, I wasn't happy at all. In fact, I was in a dark place. I was very, men's health or anybody's health wasn't really spoken much about them, but I was definitely in a state of depression without being clinically diagnosed and had to do something else. So I actually got out of that business with very little notice to my partners at the time, which was my father-in-law and a cousin. Pretty much one day just decided I can't do this anymore. I think I pretty much had a nervous breakdown. I went, that's it, enough is enough. I didn't even know what I was going to do. I just said, that's it, I'm not coming in tomorrow. And that was December the 19th, 2001. By January 2002, I was off being trained as a business coach with a company called Action Coach. As a franchisee, and I borrowed the money off my parents. As successful as it looked like we were, I didn't have the money to buy a cheap franchise either at the time.
Okay. Very interesting. All right. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. I'm going to take a slight deviation. Two things I'm super keen to understand. If you've got all the money in the world and all the freedom of choice, what's your dream vehicle, your dream car, or not, but four wheel, not flying?
Yeah. Boy, that's a toughie because I love my cars.
Yeah. I know.
But I've always wanted a Lamborghini Countach. So,
really?
Yeah. Always.
Yeah.
Either that or the DeLorean, I'd love the DeLorean.
Okay. Kind of similar look in a way, that kind of wedge thing, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the DeLorean can time travel, which is kind of special.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah.
I don't think it's real.
No. So the Countach is something iconographic about it for you?
When I was a kid, for some reason, the Lamborghini Countach was just the car that I wanted. And it wouldn't, probably wouldn't be practical these days because it's so old and outdated. So it'd have to be like a Murcielago or something, a newer model of Lamborghini. But I just love the Lamborghinis. I love the styling. I love the supercar look. I love the sound. I've driven a Lamborghini, not practical at all, not comfortable, but just lovely cars,
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, that was built around the time, if memory serves me correctly, that ABS was just beginning to be developed. I'm not sure if the car actually had it or not, but I know a lot of Porsche owners of that era all suffered from the, oh my God, it's going backwards syndrome as the engine swung past them.
Yeah.
They were pigs to handle, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, that'd probably be the one that I'd some sort of Lamborghini. Who knows what I'd end up with, but that's definitely what I'd love. And maybe and lime green for some reason,
Oh my God. Are you going to move to the Gold Coast as well then?
I'll stop short of moving to the Gold Coast.
It would look fairly normal up there, I reckon.
They are.
Yeah. I mean, all the Ferraris up there are bright yellow. Nobody buys the red Ferraris up there.
Because they don't want to be noticed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So then the other question, tell us a bit about the plane.
So the plane, being a pilot for the purpose of wanting to be a commercial pilot in the beginning, was actually quite difficult for me to do because I had to, pay my way with the training. Back then, they didn't have a lot of the support that the government gives these days for training. And when I found out that I couldn't be a commercial pilot, so it sort of shattered me. I'm glad now though, because I've got a lot of friends who are pilots that obviously through COVID, it's very tough. They're not working, but they're also, a lot of them aren't happy because it's very, it's a monotonous role and they don't really get to fly. The autopilot does most of the work. So when as time went on, aviation's a thing that once you do it and you love it, it's something that's very difficult to give up regardless of whether you are working in the industry or not, but it is expensive to do. So there were times in my life where I went several years without flying, but I always had this dream of buying my own aeroplane. And I was at the Avalon Air Show. I can't remember what it was now. It was about 2004, I think it was, or 2006. Anyway, it was some time ago. And I remember getting in there, I sort of told a white lie. I said I was ready to buy a plane, but I couldn't get there on a particular day. And so they let me in on the trade show day. And I made the sales rep take a photo of me in front of this thing called a Bonanza. I just love this aircraft. And he was sort of a bit weirded out by it, but I said, no, take me a photo. I need a photo with this aeroplane. And then that was on my vision board for many years.
Ah, cool.
And then the opportunity came up to become a shareholder in one. So it's not very wise to own one outright unless you fly every day or every second day. But I got the opportunity to buy into a group that has that particular aeroplane, and that's I've been flying that now for about 10 years and just love it. Just love it.
So is that a Beechcraft Bonanza?
It's a Beechcraft Bonanza. So it's probably one of the quickest single engine aeroplanes that's naturally aspirated. So that'll mean something to the people that love motors.
Yep.
But it cruises at about 300 kilometers an hour in a straight line. So it means I can get from Sydney to somewhere like Coffs Harbour in about 75 minutes. My parents live at Kempsey. So Sydney to Kempsey, for those that don't know, it's about a 5.5 hour drive. It's about, once again, an hour and a quarter in the aeroplane. So it's really quite convenient from that perspective.
Yeah. And you don't get stuck in that annoying bloody stop, start.
No, absolutely. And there's no police up there. There's no double demerits.
Very good. Very good. Cool. All right. Let's come back to business. So you get into an action coaching franchise. How was that as an experience, and what did you really enjoy about that?
It was a great experience. I think for me, when I first started, the way that happened was when I had my transport company, I used to go to a thing called BRG, which was a business referral group for breakfast. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, it was the only way I got breakfast. So I used to pop in there, have breakfast, and then go into the office. But there was this guy there who every time, you have to do these little 10-second intros. He'd stand up and he'd say his name. He said, "My name is Andrew. And what I do is I help business owners make more money and work less hours." And every time he said it, it really pricked my interest, because in my business, I worked ridiculous hours and didn't make a huge amount of money. And so when I got out of transport, I thought, what am I going to do? I thought to myself, I wonder if I could do what that guy does. Because I had tried to get him involved in our business, but my business partner at the time wasn't really keen on having a coach work with us. So I said to him, can we go and have lunch? I'd love to learn more about what it is you do. And, he was very obliging. And before I knew it, I was under his wing. They had this thing called an associate model, where you bought a franchise, but you came in under somebody else. And he sort of took me under his wing and trained me up. Mm-hmm. And then, it's a great system, great network, good franchise. Really, I found good support. Mm-hmm. And my strength's always been in sales. So I was always able to get clients. I wasn't so good at keeping them in the beginning, I've got to be honest.
Right. Okay.
But I was very, very good at sales. So I was able to build my client base up very quickly. And then I quickly worked out that was my strength. And so I started to partner with other coaches that didn't have that as their strength within the franchise network.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so I would bring the clients on, they would coach them. And that's how I built a firm. And in fact, we were their largest firm worldwide for about 7 years running.
Wow.
So they're in sort of, I think 61 countries and 1,100 or 1,200 offices. We were their largest office worldwide for like 7 years. We had about 50 in our team, multi-million-dollar coaching organization. And it was very, very good. But I think we sort of outgrew the franchise. We were a bit difficult for them to manage, I think, in the end. Because of what we built was so outside of the realm of what it was designed to do. Like, it really is designed to be for an individual or a small group to be supported to coach from a home office. And I think I worked from home for about 6 months, James, and went, this is not for me. I was so used to having a team of drivers that I wanted to build something bigger. And so that's what happened. And then, we sort of moved on from there. We innovated what it was that we did. Mm-hmm. In the way that we work with the businesses into what I thought was a better way of doing it. And that's what created MaxMyProfit. And so to this day, we're quite different in the way that we work with people and have additional services. So we were able now to really control the quality of what we help a client with, whether it's marketing or financials or recruitment. And so we partner with people like yourself. We have lots of trusted partners, and it works really, really well.
Cool. Very good. So had you been in the sales role, had you performed the sales function in the transport business?
Yeah, so I was very lucky. When I first became an operations manager, I was trained by a fellow called Vince Whitehouse, who I still to this day am so grateful for the fact that he saw a bit of something in me, because like I said, I didn't have an education, but they were looking for someone to be their radio operator. It was a brand new company, I think about 11 months old. And this guy's strategy was he'd build a business up, and then I think he'd sell it off, and then he'd wait his non-compete clause, and then he'd start again. And so he'd have to go out and get all this new book of clients. Mm-hmm. And so he taught me how to sell, and fabulous sales guy, absolutely sales guy, but he was an alcoholic as well. And at 11 o'clock every day, he'd go to the pub and leave me to run the business. So I had to learn how to run the business as well. So I'm, so it's sort of an unfortunate set of circumstances for him, because being an alcoholic's probably not good. But certainly the fact that it meant that he just entrusted me to run his business. And in the end, we had quite a big business, double-digit millions. And, we acquired a courier company. And so I really had some good training there. And he taught me how to sell, really did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then, one of the things that you've just referred to in your action time is that, you found that the selling thing was your strength. It was natural for you. What is it about that? What is it about you, or what is it about selling? How does that chemistry work in your mind?
I think, it's a good question, because one of the things that I've always been really good at is being able to sell, but never great at training others to, if they're struggling.
Right.
I find I can give people tips and hints and whatever, but to get people to really perform is quite difficult,
Right.
unless they've got the right mindset. So I
Mhm.
think it's to do with mindset, and I really think it's to do with the ability to accept that not everyone is going to say yes. And so, when you talk about something like the upsell, and you go to McDonald's and they say, do you want to upsize? Only
Yep.
3 out of 10 people say yes. So
Mhm.
the majority are going to say no. And I think for me, that's always been a thing. I remember when I started in Action Coach, I was only in about 4 months, and I was one of the top billers in the state. And the franchisor for the master licensee for the state was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing what you told me to do. I'm making 50 calls a day out of the Yellow Pages." Now, for the young ones, the Yellow Pages was a phone directory before the internet. But I think they couldn't believe that someone was actually doing it. And that would be every morning. I would get up in the morning, I'd make my cup of coffee, and I would just jump on the phones, and I would just cold call. And to this day, cold calling does not bother me. I think that's the key. I actually enjoy the conversation. I enjoy the challenge. And I think for me, that's always been the key. It's not about it's important what you say and how you say it, but I think that's the smallest part of it. The big
Yep.
part of it is your own mindset about what it is you're doing.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what it was. So it was very quickly I realized that I had something unique, because a lot of people struggled with it and I just didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it? So you've got a combination, I think, of two things going on there. And so one, you've put the label of mindset on one of them. And I think that's also implied in there is you probably don't have a particularly strong fear of rejection. Would that be fair to say?
Very much so. I'm also, and you would, being, in the field you're in, and you'd understand the psychology, I'm very task oriented.
Right.
So if you give me a task, I will ashamedly push pregnant women out of the way to get it done. Like, I'm very task oriented.
I think we might edit that piece out.
I wouldn't really do that, but that
Yeah.
gives some people an idea that I am very task oriented. So when something's got to be done, I do whatever it takes to tick it. So if you say to me, make 50 calls a day, I'm just doing that. That's it.
Yeah, cool. And so that's the other piece for me then as well. And you'd be familiar with Jim Collins' Good to Great book, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Disciplined people, applying disciplined thought, taking disciplined action. And I think for me, that's what you've expressed as your formula, but it's also the formula that I've seen of so many. There's this sense of optimism / hope, which translates into a low fear of rejection, coupled with a very strong discipline around the tasks and actions that generate an outcome. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because I think it reduces distraction, like I see a lot of people, they allow themselves to be distracted if they're doing something they're not really into. And so this avoidance behavior creeps in, and it stops them from doing the key things, because there's always stuff you've got to do that you don't like. Even if you love going to dinner, you're going to have to drive there and you're going to be stuck at a red light. There's always something that's in your way of doing something you like.
Yeah.
The better, I feel, that all of those things you've just talked about, it's the key is to be able to face those things and be okay with just smashing through them, even if you don't like them.
Yeah.
To get to what you want. And if your goals are that important to you, you'll just do whatever it takes. There's a book called Between a Rock and a Hard Place, which is a true story. They've made it into a movie as well about a rock climber, Adam Ralston. Have you heard of that one?
Yep.
Yeah, and I quite often talk to people about that and say, what are you willing to do, and how important is it to you? Because that guy cuts his own arm off with a pocket knife, a Swiss Army knife, to survive, because he got trapped when he fell rock climbing. And the only way to get out was to cut his own arm off with a Swiss Army knife. And you think, well, under what circumstances would you do that?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And I was talking with somebody else this morning about the psychology piece. And as you've kind of inferred, and for those who are kind of watching any of this for the first time, my background is in behavioral psychology, and I go about recruitment with a stronger emphasis on who is the person and what's their natural hardwiring rather than what does their resume say they've done. There's a little phrase that I use, and that is that we tend to practice and become proficient at those things that we prefer. Right, 3 Ps. I really, really like doing this because I like doing it. I do lots of it. Because I do lots of it, I'm pretty good at it. Because I'm pretty good at it, I get good results. Because I get good results, I get good feedback. Because I get good feedback, damn, I like doing this.
Yeah. Right.
And of course, the reverse also then applies. And if I don't like doing it, I don't do it often. I'm not very good at it. Grumble, 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 right? So do you think, so we'll come to the piece that I'm particularly fascinated with at the moment, and that is, I'm a believer for certainly the majority of my clients who are small business owners on the cusp of or the desire of going from startup to scale up, right? Typically, they're generating somewhere between 750K and 1.2 million of top line. It's probably only just profitable. They've got 3 or 4 staff on, plus some people that they outsource to, but which they still need to manage to get a few bits and pieces done. They're getting enough traction that they know that their business has got potential, real possibility, and they want to take it there. But of course, business owners come in all shapes, sizes, guises, and all that kind of thing. And I'm of the belief, long-winded question here, but I'm of the belief that every single business owner needs to become proficient at the art and science of selling. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And yet what we're describing here is that there seems to be some certain personality attributes which lend itself to success in selling. Do you think all business owners can learn to sell?
I think, yeah, it's a good question, and I don't have a definitive answer for you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I used to think that, but where I've got to now is I feel that if you don't like doing something, find somebody that loves it and get them to do it.
Right.
Especially if you're building a business that doesn't rely on you being there. And it's definitely, if you're going to grow your business and you want to scale it quickly, sales and understanding sales, being great at sales is the key. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
It's going to be a slower path. There are some businesses where they're very fortunate. They're in the situation where they can be order takers, mm-hmm. and that means that they just need to be able to deliver well, because people are really, whatever they sell is in hot demand. Yeah. And so if you can just sell it better than the next person or provide it better than the next person, and with social media and online reviews and all these things that are so publicly available these days, it's a lot of the selling is being done by a third party for you now, but that never used to happen. I think that's very, very powerful for so many people. But I still believe, and I agree with you, that if you want to really thrive, that you need to be great at, or at least have a good understanding of sales. Right. And it's even hiring and training and holding a salesperson accountable is near impossible if you don't know how to do it yourself. Yeah. If you haven't got a good structured sales process, if you haven't got KPIs set that you can measure across your sales process, because how do you manage it otherwise, and so that's the challenge, I think, for many of them. But can you teach anybody to sell? I think you can if they're willing. Let me put it that way.
Right. Yeah. How many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? Only one, but the light bulb's got to really want to change, right? Yeah. Cool. And that's interesting. I'm 13,000 words into writing a book, and the working title of the book at the moment is The SMyth. And obviously it's playing off Michael Gerber's The E-Myth. And my proposition is that as small business owners, we do need to get our heads around the art and science of sales. And the opening line, and I think you'll probably giggle at this, the opening line is, in quote marks, me talking to my then business partner. Mate, I don't want to do the sales shit, right? How about you do the selling? I'll just do all the delivery. And my title was Director of Quality. The really funny thing about that was that he and I co-owned a sales training business. Right. So there am I training, and I literally workshopped, coached, trained, mentored over 10,000 salespeople over a 15-year period. But at that particular point in time, I had an aversion to this thing called selling. I didn't want to sell. Yeah. Right. Now, I'm very fortunate in that Glenn is just, the consummate salesman. I mean, he's gone into early retirement now, lucky bastard. But yeah, he was a cold calling machine and all that kind of thing. Anyway, cold calling. Let's touch on that. Do you still do that today, 2020? Yeah.
Yeah, there are times I will call people I don't know and just have a conversation.
Yeah.
If I think that it's going to help me achieve my goal and it can be beneficial to them, I'll pick the phone up. Absolutely. I mean, I don't do anywhere near what I used to. I've got telemarketers now, and
Yeah.
I've got a team of people, but because it's not the best use of my time on like a one-on-one client level, but certainly for partnerships and things, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'll call somebody and say, "How you going? What's going on?" And it's still the most powerful way to communicate is face to face or over the phone.
Yeah. Yeah, because it is actual communication. It's two-way dialogue in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. Let me rewind that just a few seconds, because you said, if I think that, so in terms of, the permission you give yourself to cold call somebody, what was that definition?
So if I think that it will benefit me and them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? So I had this epiphany, right? So I kicked this business off in January 2018. I'm selling something I've never sold before. I've never been a recruiter ever, right? I've held some senior management positions in recruitment functions. I was a general manager of a recruitment firm, an international recruitment firm, and I created 2 internal recruitment functions as the head of people and culture or head of talent and leadership in 2 different big businesses. But I've never personally been a recruiter, right? So here am I doing something I've never done before. Secondly, I've decided that I'm going to sell this service to a bunch of people that I've never ever sold to before. My other businesses didn't deal with small businesses. They dealt with the middle and top end of town. So I'm going to go into a brand new market where I've never been before, sell something I've never sold before, and just to add a little bit of fun, I'm going to do it differently to how everybody else does it in the game, right? That shouldn't be too hard.
That's a good challenge.
Yeah, right. Now, thankfully, the thing that gave me the comfort, right, to be able to go and do that and to be the salesperson that I had long resisted being, was when the penny dropped and somebody said, really, it's all about just having a conversation and discerning whether or not you can come to a place where there is a fair exchange of value, right? Yeah. If what you've got will genuinely suit them and do good for them, who are you to make a judgment before you've even had the conversation that they will or they won't buy? Just have the bloody conversation. And for me, that's made all the difference in the world. I don't see myself as, and it's funny, right? Because here I know I'm in sales, but I don't see myself as in sales. I'm not selling in that probably old-fashioned sense of the word.
But I think that's when you really get it. I say to people that when you get it, you'll know you've got it.
Right.
But no one can tell you what it is.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is when it comes to sales. And I think part of it, or no, a big part of it is belief. And it's not so much, I mean, the techniques are there. I can teach you all the techniques in the sun, how to objection handle, how to build rapport, how to ask the right questions, all of those things. But if you still don't truly believe in what you're doing, won't matter.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. And so I always say to people, when you get it, you'll know you've got it. But no one can give it to you.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. So let's kind of come to current times. Obviously, we're in this strange state of being, COVID, the economy, to a lesser degree, the American election, and what ripple effect that might have around the world, et cetera, et cetera. Are you seeing anything different in the business world at the moment?
Not really. One of the things that I get a bit shot down for sometimes is I really do bury my head in the sand when it comes to media. I believe recessions are created, they're not the recession we have to have. I think the media hype stuff up so much that people start to believe it, and then it happens.
Yep.
This is the way I think the world works.
Yep.
So I just tend to shield myself from all of that. I'm also a great believer that when everyone else is battening down the hatches, you should get out in the storm and do your best, because now you've got less competition.
Yep.
there's still the same amount of money in the world. That hasn't reduced. It's just where people are spending it has changed.
Yeah.
So from a business point of view, you've just got to think like that, right? So I always think, how do I serve people in the best possible way to make it, as you said, so there's an exchange of value, because then they've got no choice but to buy from me.
Yeah.
And that's really how it works. So I try and shield myself from pretty much anything that's going on, whether it's an election or I don't watch the news. I got no idea how many COVID cases there were today. And I don't care. And a lot of people shoot me down for that. Oh, you don't care? Well, I don't, because it's none of my business. I don't have it. It's not affecting me. I'm not letting it affecting me. I'm just getting on with life.
Cool.
It's not going to go away tomorrow. So there's not a lot I can do about it, except keep washing my hands and wear a mask and make sure I cough into my elbow. I can do all those things, but that's about the limit of my ability to help the situation. So I've just got to get on with life.
Cool. I like that. So I'm going to reiterate something you just said there. There is still the same amount of money available around the world. In fact, I'll even argue there's more money available now because governments are making more money, right? It's just the question of, yes, some people are probably holding on to that money a little bit more tightly. And so it behoves good salespeople to be able to have good quality conversations with the right people at the right time, and to be able to kind of create that synergy and that value thing. So can I gather from that for your business, things are going along swimmingly? You haven't seen the downturn that lots of others have?
So we did in the beginning. So some of our clients were in the hospitality market or in the tourism market. And of course, both those sectors were hit pretty hard. So some of those, unfortunately, didn't make it through. However, a lot of those have done better this year than any other year.
Right.
So it's either a victim of the circumstances or a champion of the circumstances, and it's your choice. And as my backdrop says, attitude is everything. So if you approach it with the right attitude, you can turn anything into an opportunity. One of the things I tell people, James, I say, how big is the market? If you had 100% of the market, would you be happy? And they go, yeah. I say, well, what percentage do you have? And they go, less than 1%. I say, well, is it possible you could double that? Like, even in a down market, could you increase your share of the pie? So for us, yeah, we had that drop in the beginning, and then we saw quite an resurgence of people wanting to talk to us because they knew they had to do something. They either had to change what they were offering. They had to learn how to market better. They had to become more efficient. There was a lot of different challenges thrown at them that maybe they hadn't had to deal with before. So yeah, we found that worked really, really well. But besides that, we're quite lucky in the business coaching training sort of industry, and where we help people with their marketing. If people are busy, they want to help with things like systems and recruitment, or just generally managing their time. If they're quiet, they want to help because they want help with generating leads and getting sales and maximizing their profitability. So there's always an opportunity. Now, maybe that's just my thinking. I don't know. That makes that happen because I don't let any of that stop me. I just go, how do I get on with it? And I wrote an article recently for a publication, and the last point or tip I had for the post-COVID sort of reignition of your business was to act as if it wasn't there. And I actually had a couple of people message me going, that's irresponsible, but that's just how I am. Act as if it's not there. Act as if there is no recession. Act as if there is no COVID. Act as if there's no issues, and just get on with business, because whilst you're worrying about what might happen, you're not creating what you can create happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, your capacity to be creative and innovative is greatly, greatly reduced by the levels of stress that you're enduring. And if that stress is self-induced, stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I can understand why some people might get their noses bent out of joint because they'll choose to perceive what you're saying from a particular angle. I mean, I get it. I mean, that which we spend the most time thinking about shall surely come to pass.
Yeah.
So goes the old line, right? So, and again, I've along similar lines, I've often said to people, if you're not happy with how you're feeling, change what you're thinking, because how you're feeling is a direct correlation to what you're thinking about. Yeah.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like things like stress, people say, oh, it's stressing me out. No, it's not. You're doing stress.
Yep.
So, I'm a great believer that if you understand like I said, your feelings are an actual direct result of what you choose to feel, then you can control that.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. We're going to get close to wrapping up. in terms of the journey, the evolution of a small business going from startup to scale up, and then, you know, wherever it goes from there, have you seen that there is a pattern that tends to work? Is there a particular process that you believe business goes through, or is it absolutely and utterly different on a case by case basis?
Yeah, good question, James. I think the answer to that is there is a lot of similarities, no matter what. And then, of course, there's the idiosyncrasies with each business or industry. But I think the commonalities are that most of the time what happens is business owners build their business so it relies on them. And normally because that's their expertise or they're passionate about their business.
Yeah.
And it gets to a point where they're so busy doing the delivery that nobody's working on the business. That's where things fall apart.
Yeah.
So what I've found is those that take the time out to work on their business, and it can just be like a couple of hours a day, like before you go to work, park yourself up in a little comfy cafe somewhere, jump on your computer and build a system, or, you know, train somebody or create something that's going to you know, enhance your business long term. That's the key. What I find is everyone works on the now and getting that immediate result, which is called being paid, because they put themselves in a situation where they don't have the luxury to take some time out to work on the business. And the difference, working in the business, you trade your time for money, you get paid pretty much straight away, or you should do.
Mm-hmm.
When you work on the business, you usually don't get paid for that until somewhere down the track, but it's usually a lot more. And I call that making money. So the difference is going from earning money to making money.
Right.
Helping someone to be able to build their business in such a way that it makes them money that's where the gold is. So, you know, for a business owner, you've got to take time out to systemize it, to train people. You've got to be great at delegating and trusting other people, which means that you need good reporting in place, good KPIs, which is key performance indicators, so you know what's going on. You need good systems in place. So, I mean, if you look at McDonald's, I'll bring them up because most people know them. That business is run by teenagers where parents struggle to get them to clean up their bedroom.
Right.
That is a huge business.
Right.
Over 30. Well, an average McDonald's manager age is be in their early 20s, right? So they don't run the business, the systems do. All they do is run the systems. And so if you can use that as a lesson, systemize your business to the point where good people can run your systems for you and let the systems run the business. The business is who should take care of the customers.
Yeah.
It should not rely on you at all. And I know some of the people watching this might now be going, oh, but Ben, my business is different. You don't understand. I do understand. You've made it about you, and that's okay. If you want to be self-employed and you want it to be about you because that's what fills your bucket up, that's a way of getting paid. But some people want to be paid money, you know, so it depends on what it is that blows your hair back. I don't say there's a right or a wrong way. There's nothing wrong with being self-employed. There's nothing wrong with having to be the one in demand all the time if that's what you want. But if that is making you regret or you know, not wanting to get up in the morning and go do what it is that you used to love doing, then you need to change it. And I think the key is working out how to make it so your business does not rely on you. And that's taking, yeah.
I love that. And the McDonald's thing in particular, because there's a phrase that I've long quoted probably, I don't know, 10,000 times in my lifetime from Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's. If you've got a problem, make it a procedure and it won't be a problem anymore, right?
Yeah.
And then the other piece that comes to mind as well, you might be familiar with Glenn Carlson, one of the co-owners of the Dent KPI business.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, you know, Glenn shared with a bunch of us a couple of years ago that one of the very clear instructions that he gave to his team members was, in addition to the job you get paid for, the other part of your job is to make me redundant. I want you to make me absolutely and utterly useless to this business, right? And as strange and as bizarre as an instruction as that might sound, consequently, Glenn lives a very, very nice lifestyle where he's largely disengaged from the day-to-day operating of the business, and he just does the stuff that he really enjoys doing and nothing but the stuff he enjoys doing. Way to go. All right, good stuff. Mate, if people want to learn more about you and what you can do in the MaxMyProfit business, if you want to, you know, if you're interested in understanding how you can build the business you dreamed of, where should they go?
So head to maxmyprofit.com.au. Lots of free resources there. You can download our program price guide so you can get a feel for what it is we do and what sort of investment you got to make to work with us. And that's probably the best way, maxmyprofit.com.au. Alternatively, if you're on Facebook, you'll find us there. LinkedIn, we're there. Instagram, we're there. We're on all the socials. So if you search for Max My Profit, all one word, you'll find us. It feels good to type that in, by the way.
Very good. And I will also vouch for the YouTube channel. I mean, your channel, as you know, because I've shared with you, is a bit of an inspiration to me. And I hope to emulate something quite like that myself one day.
Thank you, mate.
So yeah, lots of really good tips and advice there from Ben. Sometimes I get the feeling you've stepped out for your lunch break and you're on your way to the shops just down the road, and you shoot a quick little video, little bit of stream of consciousness there. It's really good stuff.
I do. Once again, that's just me ticking tasks off my list for the day. Because
Cool.
I like to get 12 to 15,000 steps in every day.
Right.
And so I think, what can I do whilst I'm walking, because I don't want to waste that time.
Yeah, very good. Cool. Mate, it's been great having you on here. I've really enjoyed the convo. We've gone for a good 50 minutes, so it's blasted through. Thanks very much for sharing with us. I really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure, buddy. And so I'm so grateful that you asked me. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I can't believe it's been 50 minutes.
Right.
Goodness me.
Yeah, cool. All right, mate, have a great day and we'll be in touch soon.
Thanks, buddy.
And thanks everybody else for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the catch up over coffee with Ben Fewtrell from Max My Profit. Look forward to seeing you all again real soon. Cheers.